Hello everyone and welcome back to CXN Live Digital Customer Experience. I'm your host Jen, and you've also got Natalia and Marco in the room, and they'll be delivering a presentation on how Bolt increased its driver registration conversion rate by 40% with Infobip. Now I'm going to pass straight over to Marco and Natalia for their introductions and the presentation.
Thanks, Jen. Really great to be here. Hope that we have a good attendance here and that the session will be interesting for everyone. To do a quick intro of myself, I'm Marco. I'm working as the customer success executive at Infobip. I've been with the company for the last 5 years. Out of those 5 years, 2 of them I've spent working closely with Bolt and multiple people from the company. So I'm really happy that today on this session I have a Bolt representative joining me. Natalia is here to actually support everything that we'll be talking about and give us an overview from their point of view. So Natalia, can you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for joining. I'm Natalia. I work in lifecycle marketing for Bolt, and I particularly working in driver lifecycle vertical, which is a little bit different from other verticals. And today I would be happy to share some of the experiences, some of the challenges, and some of the solutions we have specifically for our industry. And yeah, with the help of partnering with Infobip. So that should be exciting. Okay.
Before we jump into the presentation and the session as a whole, feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A. We'll try to answer them as we go or after the session. So anything that pops into your mind during the session, just ask away. Okay, and before we go into the actual presentation, we have a couple of questions for you guys to answer so that we actually know who is on the other side of the screen. So question number 1 would be, which department are you actually coming from? Marketing, sales, product, or any other market that maybe we didn't mention here. So we'll give you a few moments to answer the question to see actually the results of the poll.
Yeah, we're actually very curious to see who is the most interested in the solution and who it is would be the most relevant to. So yeah, please share, introduce yourselves to us.
Hope that everyone managed to answer it. So, okay, we have an even number. Surprising. I'm quite curious to find out what's under other. So if you want, you can also type it in just to let us know which other department you're actually coming from. We have one more question for you, and this is something closely connected to the actual topic of the whole session. So the second question will be, which channels are you actually using for customer communication or customer engagement? So is it email, SMS, voice calls, chat apps, or any other channel that we missed here? This is closely connected to everything that we'll be talking about, since it represents how you can actually boost customer experience, how you can actually boost customer communication by using additional channels, not just the usual traditional ones, such as email or SMS. So again, we'll give you a few moments to answer the question so we can actually see the results. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, so email and voice calls being the most predominant ones, chat apps then in third place, and SMS last, let's say, if you exclude other. That's maybe a bit surprising. I was expecting email, then SMS, then everything else. But yeah, I'm really happy to see that a lot of people are actually utilizing chat apps already. So this is something that will be
super exciting to see that email is not the only one that's chosen. There is, and it's we actually talking to fellow communication enthusiasts that are utilizing everything's available. So hopefully we can stretch up into the presentation and cover how we are utilizing it. But yeah, very exciting to see that.
Okay, so now that we know actually a bit more about you, let's jump into the presentation. So one thing I'm not absolutely sure about is how familiar everyone here is with Infobip or with Bolt. Depending on your industry, depending on the market, it's questionable how often you came across the names of our brands. So just a quick intro from my side regarding Infobip. Infobip started off in Croatia, let's say as a small company in 2006, but today we are present globally, and we're actually the global leader in the CPaaS space, so communication platform as a service space. We have more than 70 offices worldwide. We have, I think, even outdated numbers here. We have, I think, at this point, over 3,500 employees globally, and actually the only provider that has connections to more than 200 countries. So there are numerous awards that have been awarded to Infobip over the years. And why? It's because we have the best-in-class delivery rates, high speed, reliability when it comes to the channels themselves. And we tend to offer technical expertise, any kind of consultancy to our customers, customer success management. This is where myself and my team come in actually to make sure that our customers are always happy. 24/7 support to support them with any issues they might have and resolve them as soon as possible. And our actual quality is recognized across our industries and various other industries as well. So I'll leave it to Natalia actually to explain what Bolt is and where Bolt is coming from.
Okay, so Bolt started in 2013 as a ride-hailing app. That's a company that's grown tremendously since then. It was started by a 19-year-old enthusiast, and right now it's a multi-vertical business represented in 45 countries. That's currently offering not just ride-hailing, but also food delivery and grocery delivery and micromobility, and also car sharing. So yeah, 400% growth year on year, multiple vertical launch over COVID period. So being overall a successful enterprise that's growing and growing. And here, particularly in the slides, we mentioned that we have 2.5 million of registered drivers on the platform. This is, of course, covering just one vertical of the business, but this is the most relevant to our use case. Ride-hailing being the oldest and one of the most cornerstone of the verticals of the business. This is and drivers being the key partners in this. This is very important for us to grow this community. And of course, that brings us to the question of how do we communicate with them, how we deliver our message to them. And that question becomes more complex when we take into account all the regions that need to be covered. So yeah, that brings us closer to the use case.
Yeah.
This particular
That brings us closer to the actual use case. Just to explain, so the cooperation between Infobip and Bolt has been going on for a couple of years now. And we started off with this CPaaS part. So we provided a communication platform over which Bolt could more effectively, efficiently communicate with their end users, whether those are riders or drivers. For us, it doesn't make a lot of difference. For the team, it does. So on top of that, we expanded with some additional things over the last year and a half, 2 years, something like that, where we actually pinpointed some of the challenges that the team at Bolt is having when it comes to customer communication over additional channels and boosting customer experience when it comes to certain processes that they have ongoing on a daily basis. One of those processes is driver registration. So, Natalia, can you maybe explain in short what the process was at that time and how it worked and what the challenges were exactly?
So, yeah, here is the basic understanding of what was our agenda at the point when we started this collaboration with Infobip. So we both expanding very fast to different markets, including markets that are really globally far, geographically far for us, sometimes time zone far for us, which is Africa, Latin America, where we are in need of signing up drivers on the platform, doing it efficiently, delivering the messages as clearly as possible. Before COVID, we had open offices, which was really working very good in a lot of African countries, let's say, where drivers would just come in, ask questions, and the team on site would help them, explain to them everything, collect the documents necessary for registration. When the COVID struck, one of the major issues that we encountered was how do we sign up drivers now when we are not allowed to see them in the office, when we cannot meet them face to face, and how we do it efficiently, how we explain to them and communicate that to them in a way that's going to be delivered properly, and also how do we do it in a scalable manner, because we need to continue growing in the market's demand, where demand is needed, for supply is needed, where we need to sign up more drivers. And here is when, at this point, with this challenge, we realize that traditional email, SMS marketing channels are just not always effective. And in specific markets, particularly African markets where we started this product is, email non-existent as a channel for most of our users, most of the drivers that come and would like to sign up for them on the platform. So we just needed to figure out how we're going to do it in a different way. And as we were already in partnership with Infobip in other projects, it was very logical for us to come and say, hey, can you help us out? and Infobip said, actually, we can. And here was a very cool idea to set up a WhatsApp chatbot, which would automatically speak to drivers, ask them all the necessary questions, allow them to upload all the necessary documents in a very convenient way when the driver can just take a picture, send it through. And then, of course, we needed to make sure that on the other side, our agents can efficiently process that information and finish registration, and if needed, communicate back. Yeah.
So the actual idea was to move from, let's say, the traditional way of doing this. So I think that most of the companies today, not just in the same industry as Bolt, so inside ride-hailing or general on-demand, have this process of web form registrations or submitting of, let's say, documents or any kind of information about yourself. Anything other than that is rarely encountered. So our idea from the start was to actually boost customer experience by introducing something new and something which helps the end users feel like they're actually communicating more with a friend than with a company. The best way to actually do that is to introduce a communication channel which they're most familiar with, especially when it comes to processes like this one, where you have to submit multiple media files, not just simply type it in. Then it makes more sense, and it makes more and more sense as you go along to introduce something new, to introduce something else. In this case, in this particular solution, the decision fell on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the #1 chat app worldwide, especially in the markets where Bolt is active. So our suggestion was to actually try and replace, or not actually replace, but to add the option of using WhatsApp as a registration tool alongside web forms. So if people want to continue using web forms, they have that possibility. But if they want to do everything over WhatsApp, they can actually do it in a couple of minutes without any huge issues. So through through the solutions that Infobip actually offers as a part of our SaaS portfolio, we managed to bring the idea to life. And I think it was a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken, for the first market. So actually, there three solutions from our side. I don't want to go into specifics of the solution, but there are three solutions from our side which we combined into one actually to support this case for Bolt. One being the customer engagement hub, where we actually enable the team at Bolt to automatically engage with the drivers going through the registration process, actually the leads going through the registration process, where they can actually track what is happening inside the registration funnel, where they can see if they have certain bottlenecks in that process, if some documents are maybe harder to obtain, if people are taking longer to insert some particular documentation or some particular information about themselves, and then tailor-make that solution towards their own needs as time goes along. The second part is the contact center part, the contact center in the cloud solution, which actually enables the team on both sides to review all of those documents, to review all that information, to have a real-time communication with the users, with the leads, if that's needed, if they get stuck at any point of the way, to actually push them down that registration funnel and to actually increase the number of people that are getting to the end of it. And most importantly, without this solution, we couldn't actually manage to build it. There's the chatbot building solution, which helps to automate a large chunk of the business. So everything that is needed to actually be done during the registration process, the people can actually do, and they have a more of a conversational type of experience. It's not just submit these 5 documents and that's it. It's more a back and forth between them and the chatbot, which actually guides them through every step of the way. These three combined, so all of these three solutions managed to help us bring this to life and managed to help us expand this, not just in African markets, but in other markets, in European markets, for example, as well. So, Natalia, do you want to?
Yeah. So talking a little bit more about what the ready-made solution was. So the idea was pretty simple. We create the same registration process for drivers, but now it's not in a web form, which is, let's be honest, not always the best way to request users to send you information via web form. But to mimic it and create the same flow, but on a widespread, convenient channel like WhatsApp. So the main menu would consist like entering the chatbot. The chatbot would be saying, "Hi, do you want to register as a driver? Here's what you need to do." And step by step, chatbot would request the information in the most human way possible, meaning that we do not. Of course, there would be options like enter 1 if you chose this, enter 2 if you chose that. A chatbot has a certain level of artificial intelligence, meaning that we can press it up certain words, which would be trigger words for certain questions, and sort of predict what user wants us to send them, to ask them. And chatbot very humanly, very easily, and very comfortably would lead a driver through registration process. And of course, the main convenience is sending documents via WhatsApp, which is really easy comparing to any web form when you need to take a picture, I don't know, take a scan copy of anything and then upload it to your computer. And then from that computer, send it through. I mean, on WhatsApp, you can just take a photo. It's really, really easy. So for an end user, the experience was pretty seamless. We started using the solution slow, first in one market, and on sort of limited scale, we said, okay, let's limit the amount of drivers that's going to go through the process. Maybe it's going to break everything. We don't know. So we started slowly, we tested, and it was a good success for a specific market. All the information that's sent through the chatbot would be received by local team agents, which would be entering Infobip portal and getting all the information in a nice customer card way and being able to trace everything, being able to re-engage with the customer if needed, re-request certain documents or certain information if it's needed. Sometimes on an automated level, when an agent would just take something like, okay, some attribute as false because some document, let's say, looks invalid or is invalid, and the chatbot would automatically send a message to the user and request all the documentation and re-enter the flow again from the point where it's needed. So the solution was very smart and it worked, and we just expanded it, and we're still expanding it. And so at this point, it's working. It's working effectively. So we started it basically in Africa, where we definitely had a need for an extra channel. But right now it's been expanding to Eastern Europe, to Western Europe, basically anywhere where operations or marketing has a need for additional channel.
Happy to hear it works. That's the most important thing here.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Natalia said, so the solution itself proved itself. So it's being expanded into additional markets, and the good thing is that in my opinion, it never stops. The options that you can actually do, the options that you can actually implement when it comes to expanding on the solution, when it comes to boosting the customer experience even more, not just the customer experience for the drivers, the leads, but the customer experience for the agents themselves, to, let's say, lower the amount of manual work they have, or to increase the speed of the whole registration process, things like that. They are quite extensive. So the options are quite extensive. So we have a long way to go still to explore additional options to even boost further the benefits that Bolt team actually got from the solution. One of the most important things here was actually to carefully pick the channel on which the solution will be launched. So for African markets, most of the people are quite familiar with WhatsApp. It's the #1 chat app. It's something that everybody uses on a daily basis to communicate with their friends and family. So communicating with a company over WhatsApp was maybe a bit new, but it felt the same as communication with friends and family. So it wasn't anything strange. And it, I think, was quite easy to get used to. That's why we saw the good results in African markets. In some of the markets, let's say, other channels are more popular than WhatsApp. So, for example, we had a situation where Facebook Messenger was more popular than WhatsApp in a particular market. In that case, the same solution was deployed on Facebook Messenger. In some other instances, it can be different chat apps for other markets. It can be live chat, things like that. So everything depends, and everything relates to what the decision that you make and the information that you know about the market and your audience in the end. Based on that, you can get the biggest benefits. And so when talking about the benefits, I want to hear from Natalia here, what exactly were the benefits, both for Bolt as a business and for the end users of the solution, so the drivers in this case.
Well, we came with the main question that we wanted to have an answer for, and the main task that we had in mind was, of course, to cover that communication gap that we had in certain markets where traditional marketing channels or communication channels are just not working. And they achieved that. That was the main agenda. And that happened, of course, thanks to Infobip team and thanks to careful research and making sure that we choose the right channel. As Marko mentioned in the previous slide, that WhatsApp choice was market specific. So even though we're talking about chatbot on WhatsApp, this was our decision, and this is completely optional. The main thing that we saw is that for drivers, it was much easier to go through registration process via chatbot on WhatsApp rather than doing it by traditional web form. In a lot of cases, it was easier to follow up on drivers that started registration process, but were not able to finish it because in web form, without an option of feedback or without an option to re-engage via something that's convenient and available, it was difficult to understand what is the main issue, what is the problem, and how we can help. And of course, when business scale is as it is in Bolt, it's just not possible to follow up on everyone. So having chatbot on WhatsApp where users can actually finish the flow and can still enter a conversation with a real person on the other side if necessary was very convenient and reassuring for a lot of drivers. Also for agents, of course, when submission happens via web form and everything just lands where it is and that's it, sometimes agents need to manually check what's going on before actually approving any data and then find a way to re-engage with the user. And very often the only available option is an email, which is not working. So right now, doing it all from the same solution where you just, where an agent just ticks off a tick box and just here it goes, a message out to user. And there is always a possibility to have a real conversation without automatic chatbot. Besides that, it just made an opportunity to re-engage with users much easier, much faster, right there. So better user reachability, that's what I mentioned many, many times. So that's, again, reaching out to customers via channels that they prefer rather than what we only have available. And I think that's what makes the most difference in operating a business like Bolt. And that's what makes a difference for growing a company, because specifically in a vertical of driver life cycle, when we talk about communications to drivers versus, I don't know, maybe customers or users that use ride-hailing service, meaning that they're ordering rides and so on. Very often it's not about just promoting a service and just saying, hey, go take a ride because we want you to, I don't know, to take a ride and give us some revenue. It's actually about reaching out to driver and deliver really important information the driver needs to see, information about regulations, about best driving options, about I don't know, local authority updates. Sometimes it's really about necessity to deliver a message, and doing it in an effective way makes a big difference. Data transparency. Yes, this is a point where we're talking about submitting documents in an easy way, of re-requesting those documents, checking them, approving them, doing it fast, doing it efficiently, and this is sometimes what actually stops the company from moving at a rate which needs to be moved, meaning that when we in need of supply and in need of new drivers to sign up, and our processes are stopping because we just cannot process documents fast enough, that's a problem. We do not want to be in that situation. And of course, customer-centric approach. This is about delivering the service in a way that's convenient to the customer, not the other way around. So, and using a variety of channels and actually doing research and make a solution that works on the channel that the user prefers, it's always a winner situation. So I think anyone would agree with that.
Yeah, I would say that in this particular case, both Infobip and Bolt took a customer-centric approach. So with that, the results couldn't be missed. So when it comes to results, the actual numbers, actual results, one number that you can share is?
Yeah, so 40% optimized registration process. This is 40% boost. Just to explain where this number comes, this is comparing to other traditional marketing channels we use, automation channels that we use. So 40% boost clearly shows that WhatsApp is more efficient in delivering the message and receiving the message in, I don't know, in Word, if it's just information or if it's documents or media files or whatever. So yeah, and 40% is pretty impressive and needed in areas where we need to grow and where demand for supply is very high, and where we have drivers and it's just a question about how do we reach them.
Awesome. Great. I think that's something good to close on, the whole use case story here. So the results are visible. They should be even more visible as we go along when it comes to new markets, new ways to expand on the solution, and new ways to boost the customer experience part that we're focused here. So yeah, that would be more or less it from our side when it comes to presentation. We're looking forward to the questions that you have.
Yes.
Fabulous. Thank you so much to you both for sharing that case study and those use cases. I think it's an absolute great initiative. I use WhatsApp every day, and I'm actually finding more and more businesses are doing this, and including, that extra function of WhatsApp, especially if, for example, sometimes I'm calling up some businesses and it takes probably about 20 minutes, maybe even longer, to actually get through to an agent. Or if I am using a chat tool online, I have to actually go onto the website, and it's not always as user-friendly on my phone, and I have to go grab my laptop, for example, just to go have a conversation. So to be able to have all of that experience on my phone using WhatsApp, where I do already have the app, that's definitely a plus for me. So yeah, we do have quite a lot of questions from the audience. There's still time to submit any questions in there if you have any. I'm going to kick off with a question that came in earlier. How long did it take to implement this solution? And did you face any challenges when implementing it? If so, how did you work around them?
The actual implementation of the first solution, I think, took around 3 months, something like that. The main portion of that was actually to see the requirements from both sides, to actually pinpoint the actual best possible case scenario that can be implemented. Implementation itself doesn't take long when it comes to this particular solution. From our side, maybe a couple of weeks for the whole implementation phase, but the most important thing is to actually start with the complete solution, with the best case scenario. Not just an MVP approach where you need to update the solution later on multiple times, but to actually boost the customer experience from get-go. As soon as the customers have the availability to talk with the business, we want to make sure that they talk with a sensible chatbot, that they get their questions answered, and that they actually get the help they're looking for.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this. I mean, implementation of this kind of product doesn't take 3 days. Even creating the same sort of thinking that it would be the same chatbot solution, just replicated in another market, still doesn't take 3 days. And the main reason here is that, first of all, registration process differs from market to market. Regulations differ from market to market. And when a chatbot is created, a lot of things need to be taken into consideration. This is a new platform, and creating any logical flow requires to think of all possible scenarios, how it can go. And every step needs to be taken care of. So we are on our Bolt side and Infobip side, we always make sure to draw their mock-up of the solution properly before it's implemented. So yes, and I would like to thank the Infobip team for attention to details in that, which is very important in a lot of cases. And talking about challenges, very often, because this is new to our business and to our industry overall, introducing chatbots, there is a lot of additional questions that sometimes are just missed, and then we only realize that something we should have thought about comes out when the solution is already live. And the best way to overcome it is, of course, to try and calculate all possible scenarios and predict them, which is still not always possible. So challenges come, but that's normal daily life of any kind of implementation of solutions process, or maybe it's just normal daily life for Bolt. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a question did come through earlier from Rastila Ballo at Massey United Insurance. Asked, can things go wrong using the Infobip chatbots? So, for example, can customers' information or requests be lost, or can it be missed or skipped?
Well, it can be missed or skipped, but that's just the human factor you have in there. There are agents actually working on the registration process. The human factor comes in when they need to actually check the documentation that was submitted, see if everything was submitted correctly, and then complete the registration process on their side. So that part is where most of the errors happen, because the sheer volume of the registrations, not just over this solution, but over web forms as well, where the same team is working on, can sometimes be maybe overwhelming, and things can be overlooked. So this is the main issue that does happen. The second part that always need to be taken into consideration are some kind of channel restraints, or let's say things like data retention, where if something is skipped, if it wasn't done on time when it comes to the whole registration process, the data can be erased because the data retention period expired, or the data retention for the channel expired. So you need to re-engage with the customer. You need to go through all of that again. Then that's definitely not the best customer experience. So yeah, absolutely. It can go wrong. It does go wrong, and it's normal that it goes wrong. And we do our best to minimize that from happening. But yeah, you can never be 100% effective.
Yeah, good answer. So Sandra here earlier from BModus mentioned that it's pretty simple and straightforward registration. How do you handle GDPR regulations since personal data and IDs are being sent via the chat?
Yeah, that's probably for me to answer. Well, first of all, chatbotting includes a question of user consent on sharing the data. So that is first and probably the easiest and straightforward way to resolve GDPR issue. And then, of course, all agents that process the information on the side, they, of course, all GDPR compliant, meaning that they're not allowed to share any of this. And one of the important things is that the information, the documents that are submitted are not actually stored on the device. So they're all cloud-based, and they do have an expiry date. And the only way to see those documents, access them again, is only via logging into the system. So that is either being it for Infobip internal or Bolt internal. So yeah, that's how we handle GDPR.
Yeah, well, one more thing is that, as I mentioned for the previous question, you have the data retention period where after that expires, and for WhatsApp in particular, that's 30 days, the documents are not available anymore. The second part is that we took care of that the end users, the customers, can actually request deleting the documents that they submitted previously in one of the solutions that we launched in Europe. Well, actually, the first one that we launched in Europe, as soon as we faced GDPR for the first time. In Africa, you don't have laws like that, so it's a less of a concern. Of course, you want to be GDPR compliant there as well, but it's not a necessity, let's say. But in Europe, it definitely is, and it was covered actually in a way that the end user can request for that specific document or for all of their documents to be removed. If they do that, they are automatically deleted. So everything can be done, actually.
Yeah, so just to be a little bit clear on that, so nothing is stored on, let's say, on any kind of, computer or anything, or everything, all the documents within Infobip portal are actually just on cloud with a link until they expire. After it comes into the Bolt like internal system, that's of course protected by data privacy and protection policies that we follow within the Bolt. But again, for us as a company, there is no difference where the customer is. if the customer requests the documents to be withdrawn back or deleted, that will be done. We don't actually differentiate. That's the policy.
Yeah. Okay. I think you mentioned earlier an increase in revenue. So Abdul has asked, how has the revenue increased with the solution?
So talking about the solution that was specifically targeted on the registration process. So when we talk about increase in revenue, this would be secondary metric based on increased registration rates. So we know, let's say, an average activation rate out of registrations, and then out of activated drivers, we know average LTV for specific driver, specific region. So any revenue calculation will be based on that. I wouldn't make a straight parallel to revenue, because there is multiple steps in between driver registration and revenue. There is quite a few steps in between there. But again, that was not the actual goal of this particular use case. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I think here we were actually aiming to boost the conversion rates, and then as the results trickle down the line, the revenue will be increased as well. But it wasn't the specific end goal of the solution to boost revenue itself.
Yes. Well, once again, we wanted to reach out to drivers and deliver information that they needed. That was the main goal here, and that was achieved. So we consider it a success.
Okay, fabulous. And I'm conscious of time, so we'll look to wrap up. What would you say are the biggest learnings from the whole experience, the whole journey?
Natalia, do you want to go?
Okay. I think the main learning experience for us was that there is always a solution thinking outside the box, meaning that, okay, if we cannot reach out to our customers via the tools that we have, there is no point of just taking it as it is. We should look out for other ways to do it. I think this is what we kind of do it in Bolt often. We just try to look outside the box and try and find other solutions, not always traditional. And of course, partnering with the teams that are ready to take the same approach is important. So for me, for us as a team in Bolt, the main learning point was, hey, there is actually a variety of channels that we can use. All we need to do is to find the right people that will be ready to collaborate on that and to deliver.
I would say that the learning from our side was the same. So we're actually trying to do the same thing. We're actually trying to innovate every day, Bolt and Infobip, in different industries, in different ways, but with the same goal in mind, to actually make the lives of our customers, and in turn their customers, from our side at least, a bit better, one step at a time. So for Bolt, that's with all of the services they've launched over the last couple of years. For us, it's actually to reach out to everyone globally and to enable better communication and better transfer of information and knowledge. So here we actually managed to see that thinking outside the box, actually thinking of new use cases or new ways to apply existing technologies is definitely a good boost for any company, both for us by learning something new, and for our clients by gaining additional benefits when it comes to their business goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And any final words you want to say to the audience today?
I just want to thank everyone that joined. I was checking the attendees list. I'm quite disappointed that not a lot of my colleagues have joined. I'll have to give them a good scrub down. But yeah, thank you everyone for your attention. It was really a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you for listening. And I really hope there was something useful for you, maybe something that you would like to be curious about, something to explore. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here and to spend some time talking to the audience about things that we do on a daily basis. So yeah, thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you both for attending today. Now, if you do want to find out more, do check the resources box. There is a WhatsApp business use cases, the global state of customer experience. We've also got 2 guides, the UK version and the US version on customer experience decision makers. So do get downloading before you leave this webinar today. There is also a survey, so please do submit that at the end of the webinar. If you would also like to request a personalized demo from Infobip, please do let them know via the survey. All right, the next session up is Talk Desk on building agility and resilience with a hybrid workforce. That's taking place in the next 15 minutes. I'll see you all in the next room. It's bye for now.
Bye-bye.